From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things each week that make us go
wow.
I'm co-founder of World of Wonder, Fenton Bailey, joined by editor of the Wow Report, James St. James.
Darling.
And so excited to welcome back Tom Campbell.
Fresh from vacation.
You are our Chief Creative Officer, and you've been on a retreat.
Yes.
Right?
It's so nice to have us all back together again, boys.
Missed you.
For this, our 269th episode.
Good God Almighty.
Let's jump into the countdown.
Number 10.
Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, I can't wait. Yes.
It's a new Hulu series. It was co-written and stars Steve Martin and Martin Short. And as one reviewer said, the replacement for Chevy Chase is Selena Gomez.
As one does.
And that's an odd pairing, or she makes it an odd pairing.
I think it sounds delicious.
I think you're going to like it. Anything you can criticize about the show, it's a series, Steve Martin's first series, is what you love about it. And basically, the premise is there's a murder in this very fancy Dakota-like building in New York that these three people live in. Steve Martin is an actor, kind of like a washed-up MacGyver who can't get work, who has like, and it's sort of the theme of loneliness. He's kind of can't get any work. He can only be an actor. He can't really access his feelings in real life. Martin Short is a flouncy, fabulous Broadway producer who's lost everybody's money and can't, has a flair, but sort of got nowhere. He's genius. And Selena Gomez has the mystery, but she's supposedly living in her aunt's apartment and redoing it, but it's kind of sloppy. And she's just up there and, whatever her financial status, she's dressed beautifully.
Oh, good.
At the very beginning, so I'm not giving away too much. The very beginning, you see Martin Short and Steve Martin are running. It's a terrible thing. They go down and there's a dead body. And then Selena Gomez looks up. So she's covered in blood. She goes, "It's not what it looks like." And that's how it starts. And then 2 months before, and there is a murder in the building, and they're all the way they meet each other reluctantly is they're all fans of a murder podcast called Not Okay in Oklahoma or something, which Tina Fey makes cameos, lots of cameos as sort of the visualization of the podcast. And they decide that they're going to put their murder mystery podcast expertise to use in beautiful New York. And there's one secret after another and layers and onions. It's also full of really corny showbiz jokes.
Love it.
No problem with that here.
Right.
And they're all good.
I imagine they all bounce off each other very well, especially Steve and Martin, because they know each other so well. But I imagine Selena is sort of the oddball mix in there that makes it fun.
And it's the right thing because it's not a creepy romance, although there is some, that they care about each other. But it's not a creepy older man, younger woman romance. She is exquisitely beautiful. I knew we knew this, but I've never really watched anything with Selena Gomez other than a music video. And she's just delightful to take in. And I
sort of think it reminds me a little bit of the Woody Allen Manhattan Murder Mystery, of which this is a great thing. I love Manhattan Murder Mystery, but to do a Manhattan Murder Mystery without Woody Allen and all that nonsense, it sort of seems like this is the way to go.
Yes.
Is it a musical? Are there songs in it?
They're kind of are, because there's something surreal that happens every episode. Something happens surreal just to sort of plot it along. And one of the things is Martin Short's trying to figure out who did it. And all of a sudden it breaks into chorus line. And there's like all the people who live in the building. And he's like, get in the back. He's doing his crazy showbiz thing. But for Martin Short, with some subtlety, which means no subtlety. But for Martin Short, with some subtlety. And I have to say, it's been said by others, he steals every scene he's in. Anyway, I'm 3 in. I'm hooked. I had a couple of criticisms as watching, like that's a little clunky, that didn't quite work, and I decided I'm embracing this fully. It's really a delightful romp with lots of things to be continued. And when I I won't say, but
well, you know, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned it because it was on my to-do list and I'd forgotten about it. But I think because of this, I'm going to go back and watch it this weekend.
It's a quick. You'll get the first 3, and Nathan Lane has a part in it.
Oh, good.
Sting has a part in it. It's all they all live in the building.
Digression, but Martin Short, does he look very different lately, or is he aged strangely?
I mean, they're both really old, and I say that with love and respect.
Right.
They're both deep into their 70s. So the fact that they can move things and remember lines, I'm all for it.
I think at our age, we can say really old, deep in our 70s, when we are teetering on it. It's not that much older, guys.
No, but I'm just saying that I can't look shame them in any way. I just think if they're still here, God bless them.
Yeah, it wasn't a shady. I know it sounds like a shady question. It wasn't really meant as a shady question. He was in the morning show. He had a little role in the morning show. I was like, is that Martin Short? So anyway, I don't.
Yeah.
Not gonna touch it. I get it. Only Murders in the Building is streaming on Hulu.
Yeah, Tuesdays. Every episode's on Tuesday.
James, number 8. No, James, number 9.
Oh, number 9.
Number 9.
I've never not been able to count from number 10 to number 9 before. That's a new first. Talk about getting old.
It should have been a question on your job application. Can you count from 10?
Well, I think we're just going to have giant cue cards that give you the number each time before we start.
Number 9,
Number
Jay.
9, American Horror Story Season 10 on Netflix and Hulu. And I am going to say something that you are not going to believe. I take back every bad thing I've ever said about Ryan Murphy. The man is a genius. I am fully on board with everything he's ever done. And I'm going to lay it out for you. I'm going to spread the buffet in front of you. This is, there's so many layers to this new season. It is so delicious on so many different levels. And one of those levels is that it is a delightful middle finger to World of Wonder and me and Party Monster and everything. And I'm going to get to that because it starts off and it looks in the beginning to be a mashup of Stephen King's The Shining and Salem's Lot. Okay, it is a writer who has writer's block, and he and his family go to P-Town during the off-season, during the winter. And he's going to write out a screenplay. And once he's there, they start to see that this empty, spooky off-season town is populated by these vampire-like creatures who are feeding on the animals and everything around the town. And one night, he goes to this bar that is sort of like a seedy hustler bar in P-Town. And it is populated by these sort of hustlers. And Macaulay Culkin is there, and he's like the lead hustler. And he is this sort of aging over the hill. And I'm just going to say it. And you know there are conversations because Macaulay Culkin is playing it as Michael Ealig near the end. If he had done Michael Ealig as a young guy in Party Monster, he is now doing Michael Ealig near the end of his ropes. And he is sort of this, like, he's sort of fabulous, but he's like disheveled and like sweaty and methed out of his mind. He's a meth junkie and everything. And so you have all these different other things that are happening. You have Ryan Murphy is also referencing something called the Lady of the Dunes, which is a local urban legends. And there were some serial killers that happened. There was the Bridgewater Triangle is something that happens during
check.
Yeah, and that's UFOs that happened in the area and stuff. But he's also doing Party Monster because the thing is the vampires, the lead vampires played by Evan Peters and what's her name? Frances Conroy. They're this sort of couple, and they play their karaoke like vampires, and they're like sort of a Marty or Kiki, Kiki and Herb.
Marty and Elaine,
Kiki and Herb, and they give the writer these pills, these black pills, and the black pills, if you have talent, the pills are going to raise you to a level of genius, and you're going to become the superior talent of all time. You're going to become like a legend. But the trick is that you will also become a vampire and you have to feed on the other people, right? But If you don't have talent and you take the pills, then you become this wastrel, like wrath vampire figure. So if you take the pills and you become addicted, you have to have the talent to back it up. So if you're doing drugs, and if you do drugs and you have talent, the drugs are going to work for you. But if you don't have talent and you do drugs, you're going to be this sort of wastrel figure, which is a fuck you to Party Monster and the whole idea of the path of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. You know, the whole idea that you have to be a drug addict, that Michael Ehrlich always thought you had to be a drug addict in order to access your genius, is sort of what's happening here. So these drugs, these little black pills, will, if you have the talent, you can become a drug addict, you can become the black pill addict, and you can access your genius. But if you don't have the talent to back it up, you become one of these wastrel vampires.
All right. So if you have the talent, you can become a vampire.
Yeah, you can use the drugs. You can use the drugs to enhance your talent.
But you still become a vampire.
You still become a vampire, but that's just sort of one of the side effects. You're going to feed off the people. The other, even if you're
either way, you're going to feed
even
people.
if you're a genius, you're still going to feed off of others.
Darling, we're all vampires after a certain age. Let's face it.
Exactly. But he's sort of but Ryan Murphy, and I don't know whether it's true, whether it's my megalomania that he's riffing on Party Monster, but the very fact that he cast Macaulay Culkin says that he's riffing on Party Monster, the whole idea of that you have the drug addicts can be fabulous. And if it is just my megalomania, and if it is just me being mentally ill, it's still fabulous, and I'm still enjoying every minute of it. So, like I'm saying, whether Ryan Murphy is giving a finger to us or not, it doesn't matter, because it's still brilliant and genius.
All right, and ultimately, everyone's going to hell anyway. So but
I really think that you'll get the idea if you watch it, that the drug addicts.
Why is it called double feature? The 2 episodes or something?
Because no. I think it turns into something else. I think it starts off being
vampires.
vampires.
It's a game within a game.
A game within a game. Yes, it starts off being vampires and it turns into aliens later on. We don't. I mean, it always goes someplace completely different than what you think it is. But the idea is that every junkie quotes William Blake saying the Palace of Excess, but very rarely does the path of excess lead to the Palace of Williams. Junkies very rarely get to the Palace of Wisdom.
Well, I guess we'll just have to watch and see if Seth Green pops up playing James St. James. All right, so that's American Horror Story double feature, Wednesdays 10 p.m. FX, next day on Hulu. Okay.
Number 8.
Dune. I've been waiting to talk about Dune.
Well, wait, you can't do it 2 weeks in a row and not talk about it.
I am allowed to talk about it. I am allowed to. It is premiering, James, today at the Venice Film Festival. Okay. And I'm not there because I don't need to be, because I've already seen it.
Break it down for me. I know nothing about this.
Dune. It's
Wait, you've never heard of Dune?
It's a remake. It's a remake.
It is indeed. It's a remake. It's a spectacular remake by Denis Villeneuve, who director of the Blade Runner sequel. He also directed,
which is more brilliant than people give it credit for. He also
directed Arrival, a very cerebral alien film, and Sicario. Yeah. And of course, the point of interest for James is that Timothée Chalamet plays the young love interest, and Zendaya,
the most brilliant woman on television.
I mean, and they make a very comely couple on screen. But I think this film really is about the architecture. Dune is a desert planet, and just the excuse for the most spectacular, epic scale, minimal architecture you ever saw. It's very Blade Runner, but much bigger and much more stark. And one of the things about this planet, this desert planet, is that there's this spice, and the spice, you need the spice because it allows time travel.
With this K, we're always having these drug addict references. I'm sorry.
Well, it was written in the 60s, James. So it was the age of Aquarius, But the problem with the dunes, the sand, is that it's full of sandworms, and they're just massive things that they are
giant buttholes is what they look like.
They are indeed, James. And you have not seen a giant butthole as giant as this.
Oh, I think you're challenging me. I've seen some giant buttholes.
I know you have. I'm sure you could stick your head up one, but these are bigger on the screen. I've never seen a big butthole as big as this. And the mood. I mean, it's really a mood piece, to be honest. And actually, David Lynch's 1984 film that was such a spectacular sort of flop also was a mood piece, because I think there's something about Dune that is very it's very moody. And what works about this is that there aren't a lot of words. There isn't a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of, looking, and people have psychic powers. And the soundtrack, oh my God, Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack. It is unbelievably powerful. And when people say, oh, well, the music pulls it together, you think, yeah, must be a dog of a movie. No, the music really, really does pull you through this, and it's fabulous. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, also, I imagine that the costumes are absolutely brilliant too. I have this feeling that it's sort of a post-apocalyptic water world type situation where everyone
it's just
these rags that are falling off of them.
It is a visual feast in every way, and I went to see it. And I was saying to Jazz Tange, who very kindly took me as a date, I say, how did they get the whole story into 2.5 hours? Because that's how long the film is. Well, what neither of us realized is it's only part one. So there are 2 parts of Dune.
I have a feeling it's probably 3 parts. I hate to break it.
By the time we're done, it will probably be 6. You're right. Yeah. It's never going to end. Dune is out October 22nd in theaters and on HBO Max as well.
It also has Oscar Isaacs, and it also has Jason Momoa and a whole cast of really fabulous people. That and Dave Bautista, isn't it? Is he in it? I can't remember.
I'm not sure. But one little detail I do want to share is that Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune I think it came out in 1964, he got the idea. He was a writer, and he was doing an article on the Environment Agency, and they were trying to introduce European grass to stabilize the dunes up in Oregon, which were just sort of rolling and spreading. And he was writing an article about this idea of introducing European grass to hold the dunes together.
Well, it does. And many people have done that since then. That's right. A common thing to do with sand dunes.
Although apparently now they're trying to rip out the European grass. That's just a little update.
Oh, I wonder if it's like an invasive species or something.
Something like that.
But you do stop the sand dunes from spreading by planting grass.
That's very right. So June, October 22nd. Now, check out our brand new podcast about New York City nightlife in the 70s.
What's
80s,
this? I don't know anything about it. What? Tell me.
James St. James. It's called Night Fever, and it's hosted by you.
Wow.
And the first episode features you talking to Queen of the Night, Diane Brill, and it's really fabulous. Randy and I are in it a little bit. We don't get much of a word in edgeways. And you can watch it on Wow Presents Plus with new episodes coming up every Monday. In fact, next Monday, Michael Musto is the guest of honor on Night Fever. All right.
I gotta say that we've been editing the first 4 episodes, and they tell strung together. They tell a really interesting story about me, and I come off as quite a sociopath. I am absolutely completely bonkers by the time you get to the 4th episode.
Someone call Ryan Murphy, American Horror Story Series XX, whatever it is.
Thank you.
That's my ride. Hey, Blake, do you have a question for us?
Yes, I do. Just for Fenton. What number are we going to after the break?
That's a difficult question. I dare you. We'll be right back with the answer after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom Campbell. Reunited, thank goodness you're back. James St. James, soon to be a Ryan Murphy horror lead actor. And Blake, what was the question?
I just asked for Fenton what number we're going into next.
We're going to number 7.
Number 7.
I told you I was away for 2 weeks in New Hampshire visiting family on vacation. I was just telling James before we started that I didn't want to say I was being lazy because I'm lazy in Los Angeles. In New Hampshire, I was just soaking it all in. That was my line. I'm just soaking it all in, which means lying in bed and looking out the window. The one thing I did, which I've rarely done in my life, is I listened to a book on tape. It's just almost like reading, almost. And it was, I saw it on my Facebook feed and I did, and it's called Elizabeth and Monty. and it's a new double bio by a man named Charles Casillo, I don't know if you know him.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
And it is about Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift.
Yes.
And it got me very curious about Montgomery Clift, who I know
isn't he wonderful?
He was amazing. He was beautiful. He was a child actor. He's older than Elizabeth. He started, in the thing, he had an overbearing mother. He had homosexuality. There was a narrative that the homosexuality drove him mad and crazy. Elizabeth Taylor, he ends up meeting on A Place in the Sun. Up until that point, Elizabeth Taylor is a young actress who becomes famous very young. And
she was a child star, and he sort of helped guide her into becoming an actress.
Yes, but each chapter,
yes. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's chronological. It's about him. It's about Elizabeth. So you're doing like parallel lives as they come together, as they part, as they come together. Individually, they have lives that are fascinating and littered with the biggest names in, film and stage and literary. He was like Fontaine. What Lunton Fontaine?
Yeah, he was a protege of them. Yeah,
he was a protege of them. He starred in a film with them, and that was an arranged marriage. She was supposedly a lesbian. He was gay. I didn't know. Elizabeth Taylor's father was gay.
Yeah,
and was basically an arranged marriage with her mother, and he ended up having a long-term affair with Adrian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's just, these are just like the peripheral. It's full of peripheral facts.
Can I quickly tell the famous story about when he got into the accident? Have you gotten to that yet?
It's the whole thing starts with the night that supposedly ended his life.
Okay,
you tell the story.
He's the most beautiful, talented man. He's Brando and James Dean look up to him, right? He is the torchbearer of the Stanislavski method.
And he's shooting Raintree County, which is supposed to be with Elizabeth Taylor. That's their first pairing since In the Place in the Sun, and it's supposed to be bigger than Gone with the Wind. And they're in the middle of filming. Elizabeth invites him up to the house.
They're at a party in the hills, and
Elizabeth's house. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, I'll stop. With Rock Hudson and his wife Phyllis Gates are there. Go.
No.
So they're at the party. He leaves the party. He's a little drunk. He gets into his car. He's driving down the hill, and he drives off the cliff into a phone pole, and he smashes his way. Yeah, am I right? Am I right? Yes,
you're absolutely right.
Okay, and so he's in a horrible car wreck. His face has been like basically ripped off his head. And Elizabeth hears this. She races down the hill. She's driving herself, races to the accident. She gets there, and he's choking. He's dying. He's about to die. And she realizes that his teeth have been punched out of his face and that he's choking on his teeth. She reaches in with her hand, grabs the teeth from down his throat, rips the teeth out, and shaves his life. Well, his face has been destroyed. His beauty is gone. For the rest of his life, he is a disfigured.
2 months later, yes, he's back on the set of Raintree County,
with a different face.
Doesn't
his face
work.
is like this, and they have to shoot him from different angles. And for the rest of his life, he's a drug addict on the painkillers. And by the time you get to Suddenly Last Summer, which is the movie that you and I and Fenton and Nolan are going to start our movie series with, that he is trying he's desperately trying to keep it together, but he is just a wreck of a man, and his beauty is gone, but still Hollywood is forever trying desperately to hold him up and put him through movie after movie after movie, even though he should just be in a rest home for the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh, that's a horrible story. That's
and
terrible.
that doesn't, and again, that's the myth, and that's correct, but he had a big life afterwards. I have to say, with both of them, and Elizabeth went to rehab and had recovery at some point, but they are stories to me of alcoholism and drug addiction that we always, it's like the Elvis story. It's the Marilyn Monroe story, which Montgomery Clift did a movie with her called The Outsiders. And it's all about trying to find a reason that someone becomes an alcoholic or an addict. And I don't know that there is a reason. People want like the narrative of like, oh, he fell on his head when he was a child, and that's why he does this now. They both had the disease. Montgomery Clift could not, he was with Hustlers at the end. He died a miserable alcoholic life. Elizabeth, of course,
Rose
lived,
above and moved on.
rose above and became an advocate. And now it puts in context, her father's gay, Rock Hudson, her best friend's gay, Montgomery Clift is really her best friend's gay, and it puts into context.
James Dean was gay, you know.
Roddy
I
McDowell.
am frightened to join all these dots of Hollywood gayness and addiction. I'm not joining those dots.
No, but it gives you a reason. It gives you a more powerful reason when Elizabeth Taylor takes on the fight of AIDS for the last 2 decades of her life. It really is because she was.
It's funny. I just recently rewatched The Misfits with Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe and Montgomery Clift, and it is a powerful. It is one of the most amazing movies that's of all time. I think it's one of the top 10s.
And that was done after his accident, so he did have successes.
We're moving on to number 666.
Number 6.
American Crime Story, Ryan Murphy, other big series, and it is the Monica Lewinsky scandal. It's
Impeachment, right?
Impeachment, yes. And we know that Monica has had input in this, and that she is a producer on the show. And American Crime Story has. So far, every single episode, every single series has been spot on, and it's been pretty amazing, and it gets a lot of awards, and it's done really well. I don't know that I can do it, and and I know that Monica's imprint is on it, so that we love Monica, we support Monica 100% in everything she does, and I am glad that she has input in her own story and is taking the reins of her narrative.
Why are you hesitant?
And I love Hillary too, and it's weird. I don't know that I can go to the story yet.
Why are we telling the story again? That's what I sort of wonder.
Well, that's just it. I mean, why did we do the O.J. Simpson again? You know, it's sort of the same thing where I don't know that enough time has passed personally. But for me to go back to that well yet, and even though I'm eager to hear from Monica's point of view, and Beanie Feldman as Monica is really interesting, I do know that there is a controversy with Sarah Paulson playing Linda Tripp in a fat suit.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, that's where I wanted to go. Tom,
okay,
go.
Good. No, you go. I just think I think it's kind of ridiculous, but please, where do you weigh in?
And she's apologized, and it gets that same thing as, should LGBTQ actors be the only ones to portray LGBTQ characters? Can big girls only play big girls? Do you have to, or is a fat suit insulting to people of weight? You know.
I'm sounding archaic on this, but like, if you're not a brunette and you wear a brunette wig to play a character, you're taking something on. Sarah Paulson's a lesbian. Can she only play lesbians? I don't like it. Feels.
Well, I think the whole thing about acting is it's pretending, right? I mean,
but are you taking away? But are you taking away roles like the LGBTQ argument? Like. Shouldn't we be giving LGBTQ roles? Shouldn't we be giving trans roles to trans girls? Shouldn't we be giving, let people who are a little larger, shouldn't they finally get roles that they've been denied their whole life?
I think it's I think it's a case by case. I think, and I think so much of this is about intention. Yeah. What's the intention behind the action? Are they trying to block out by doing it, are they ruining someone's career? I don't know.
Like I said, because now I'm Ryan Murphy's biggest advocate, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. And I'm saying, and because he's working with Monica, I have to believe that it's that everyone's intentions in this are in the right place.
I
think Linda Tripp is such a terrible, or was, because she's dead, such a terrible human being. I think that anyone who plays her is whoever they are is brave enough to take on that role, because she was a despicable, irredeemable person.
Horrible nightmare. Just
So
okay. Now moving on.
All right. Okay. American Crime Story Impeachment is next Tuesday on FX. Tom, number 5.
Number 5.
I read a book too, a book on tape, and because I'm very excited about the House of Gucci movie with Our Lady of Gaga playing the murderess, right? And I bought the book, The House of Gucci, that it is based on, written by Sarah Gay Forden. This book is old in the sense it came out in 2000. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I mean, the murder and all that is an amazing story. And I know that Scott Ridley, I'm sure, is going to tell it amazingly in the movie. And that's what the movie will be about. But that is a tiny fraction of this book. This is a fascinating story about the evolution of the House of Gucci. And where it got, for me, really interesting is when Maurizio Gucci, who was the youngest grandson of the founder of the House of Gucci, he basically takes control of the Gucci empire, he inherited it from his father, he wrests it out of his uncle's hands, kicks out the nephews, and takes on the company all on his own, and has this vision to remake Gucci. And as he tries to do this, he has to he has to sort of sell out half his share to an Arabian investment bank called Investcorp. And that's how he gets rid of the rest of his family, because he buys them out. And then as he tries to realize his vision for Gucci, the investment bank says, no, you don't. And they end up taking it from him. And he ends up having to sell his piece of Gucci for something like 150 million. And then the story gets doubly interesting, because within 5 years, they go from making a loss, being on the verge of bankruptcy. This is early 1990s, to becoming having $1 billion in profit in like a 5-year span. And the key to that is the story of Tom Ford and Dominic DeSalle, who is this lawyer who just got into the House of Gucci early on, kind of by accident, really wasn't up to the job, but became this super powerful figure and ends up as the CEO of Gucci. And it's a fascinating story. It reminded me of, do you ever read Robert Cringely's Accidental Empires? It was all about Microsoft and Apple, and just basically how accidental it was that they ever got anywhere or did anything. And this Gucci story is kind of the same. The whole thing is complete chaos and dysfunction. But it's just amazing how suddenly everything goes to shit, and then suddenly everything goes right. And it's just a fascinating story. And I'm sure none of that, it's a high finance business, corporate takeover kind of story, but it's really gripping. And I was just totally gripped.
Question. I am fascinated. I am totally fascinated. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, yeah. And it was the Japanese who basically rescued Gucci, because the brand was sort of on the outs, but then suddenly they started buying it again. And actually no one really knows why. It wasn't that they had this new look. It was just, that thing about a luxury brand. Suddenly it's too omnipresent and people turn against it. And then it lies fallow, and then people come in and rediscover it. And that's kind of what happened.
Huh.
All right. Should we take a break?
Hey, can I promote myself real quick again?
Yes.
Speaking of books, I want to say that today we have introduced a new cover for the Kindle version of Party Monster, which is being republished in the UK. And there's a fabulous new cover for it. I want everyone to go onto the WoW Report and check it out. For Party Monster, it looks spectacular. And it goes on sale in September.
This is your month, James. It is also James the Palooza on WoW Presents Plus. All James's works are there.
From my front porch as we speak. It is just it is a shower of love that I can't respond enough to.
There you go. All right, Blake, have you got a question?
I do. I mean, it's for all of you, but I think Tom may get this, because on this day in 1957, this automobile, one of the biggest business flops in history, was released. What was it?
I think I know.
Okay. We'll have the answer right after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Tom Campbell and Blake. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week, and we had a question before the break.
Yes, and on this day in 1957, this automobile was released, and it was one of the biggest business flops in history. What was it?
Well, it's not the Edsel, and you said that Tom.
It is the Edsel.
It is no, because this was 57. That's not the Edsel. The Edsel was before that, right?
That was 57, 58, 59.
It
I
was?
think the last one was 60.
It is the Edsel, and I say that because we did a show on what was it? The failed products. You can go back and watch it on the WoW Report.
World of Wonder did a show called Failed Products.
No, we did.
We
On
did
this show.
on this show. We did.
Yes,
And
on
Tom
this
Campbell
show.
spoke about the Edsel.
The Ford
In one of
Edsel.
our 269 episodes, James, get with the program.
Hey,
Yeah.
I remember them all like they were yesterday. That one seems to have slipped. I
You
thought
always
Edsel was,
space out during my stories, James.
but wait, didn't like Lucy or somebody? Didn't they do it? Didn't they get an Edsel or something? Or
She used to have Studebakers.
Studebakers, right? Okay.
What was
okay.
that car that guy invented? And he tried to launch the car against
Oh, you're
GM.
thinking of the in the 80s.
Nash.
No,
DeLorean.
DeLorean.
No, not
You're
DeLorean. No,
thinking
before it.
of Nash, not Nash. Tucker.
Tucker. Yeah. What was his car called?
Tucker.
Oh, it was called Tucker.
the Tucker Mobile.
All right, there you go.
Tuckered out.
Oh, we should do a whole Cars episode one
Love
one
that.
time.
In Cars, we'll have Gary Newman be the song.
Yes. Love a bit of Gary Newman. All right, we're at number 4, Tom.
Number 4.
You know, I'm the rest in peace guy, but have to take a moment to pay tribute to Ed Asner, a great American actor who touched our lives so many ways. He was 91. You know, I'm not going to say anything you don't already know, but I mean, the Mary Tyler Moore Show was everything to me, and he played such an important part in that role, in that show as Lou Grant.
Lou.
And Mr. Grant.
Mr.
And
Grant.
what's kind of amazing, which has been noted, is that they took that character, they spun off the Lou Grant character from a sitcom for 7 years and turned it into a successful drama where he was the head of a newspaper. It was kind of in the afterglow of All the President's Men when newspaper journalism was kind of sexy and they had lots of investigations. And Lou Grant, Ed Asner, was really outspoken politically on the left his whole life. Very well spoken, was the president of the Screen Actors Guild in the early 80s during the Reagan era. And a lot of, helped get them healthcare, was fighting more recently when they're trying to get older people off healthcare. And Lou Grant was a top 10 show when it was canceled. And a lot of people think that's because of his political leanings to the left. He
was beloved in Hollywood. He was also the old man in Up, of course, the Pixar movie. He had many great roles. And Michael Moore gave a really touching tribute on Twitter when he said that when he was first doing what was the automobile movie in
Roger and Me.
Roger and Me, when he was first trying to get funding for Roger and Me and he didn't have any money and he was writing to celebrities saying, will you donate? And the only star who donated was Ed Asner. And he wrote and he said, I don't know you, but here's $500, kids. I hope you make a hell of a movie. I was an auto worker once, so I'm right behind you 100%. And he said that touched him in ways that no other star helped him except for Ed Asner.
That's amazing.
Right before the pandemic, I think I was flying Alaska Air from LA to New York when we could still travel and do things on our own will. And I was in kind of, it's 2 classes there, but it's not, there's like 2 rows of first. I'm sure I was not in first. Sitting behind me in the extra leg room class was Ed Asner.
Wow.
And I just saw him and I was glowing the whole trip, just thinking, oh my God, Asner's behind me. And when I finally got up to leave and was packing my stuff, I'm sure I didn't make any sense, but I kind of just bowed to him, just and he was like, we were kind of just to each other. Cause it's just it's hard even to put into words what he means to you. He was in, he's just been in everything. He was in Roots and a lot of gay people were posting him and his wife beater. Like he was a sort of a sexy bear back in the day.
Kind of, he was sexy. And also recently someone had just died. I can't remember who. And he tweeted to Betty White and he said, it's just me and you, Betty. And he said about that. Was it when Rhoda died? I can't remember.
I think when Gavin McLeod passed.
Gavin McLeod. And he said, I'll meet you in heaven soon. I'll be there very soon. And Betty, it's just me and you now.
So out of the Mary Tyler Moore gang, the only remaining full-time cast member is Betty White.
He said to Gavin, I'll see you soon. And it was just, and he did.
I treasure you people.
Oh, tears.
Let's move on to number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, this is just very quickly. I had an incident with FedEx that I've just got to share with everybody. I had a package that was supposed to go from New York to Los Angeles. Straight shot, a 2-day package. It was going to go, from New York to LA. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? The package went, as I'm following it, you get the tracking history and you follow it. It went from New York to North Carolina to Pompano, Florida. From Pompano, Florida, it went to Key Largo, and it said, "We're sorry your package is stuck in Key Largo. We don't know what the problem is." And it stayed in Key Largo for about 4 or 5 days, and then went back to Pompano. Okay, from Pompano, it went to Livingston, Louisiana, where it got stuck in Livingston, Louisiana for a few days. And then from Livingston, Louisiana, it went to Sonora, Texas. And by this time, I'm tweeting about it every day. And I'm saying, I hope that by the time it gets to me, it's like those old-timey steamer trunks that comes with stickers all over it, because it's having the better vacation than I've ever had in my life. So from Sonora, Texas, it goes to Tucson, Arizona, where it gets stuck for a few days. And by this time, I'm tweeting about it nonstop. And FedEx is seeing my tweets. And someone from FedEx contacts me and says, "Let's see if we can't figure out what's going on." And I say, "Thank you so much." And so after a whole bunch of information going back and forth, the lady from FedEx says, "Oh, well, we found the trouble. And it seems to have gone from Key Largo to Livingston to Sonora. And so that's what's going on." And I said, "I know that's what's going on. I know that's what. Why on earth would it be? Why on earth did a package going from New York to LA end up in Key Largo in the first place?" And she said very sensibly, "Oh, well, it's trying to stay ahead of the hurricane." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, why on earth are you throwing a package in the path of a hurricane if it's going from New York all the way down to the Florida coastline to Louisiana? Why are you putting it in the path of a hurricane in the first place?" So then it goes from Tucson, Arizona to Pacoima, California, where it's stuck. And it says it still might be about another 10 days. And I'm like, are you kidding? I could drive to Pacoima tonight and be there when the place opens. Why are you not? And they say, "Oh, well, it's just something that's happening in the company because of the hurricane." Why on earth is so? If it was going, there's no coastline between New York and LA. It should have just stopped either in Chicago or Denver or Atlanta.
Someone really needs their life-size sex doll.
No, I was going to say, James, don't you miss the days of good old-fashioned drug mules when people just put it into a balloon, shove it up their ass, and fly across the country?
I was saying, why it's like the Pony Express. I imagine someone is on a tricycle driving from each town and handing it off to the next person.
You have to tell us what is in the package.
Well, I don't think I can tell you that. No, it's an outfit that I had gotten from Pat Fields, and so I've been trying, going back and forth with Pat.
All right.
The people.
Oh, well, we have to let us know when it arrives. We have to have.
It has arrived, and it's absolutely spectacular. And thank you, Pat Fields. Thank you, designer Dope Tavio. It's wonderful, and I hope I have some place to give it justice.
You see, I thought you were going to talk about Liquid Sky. That's what it says here, and I'd love you to talk about Liquid Sky.
Well, I will next week, because I'm doing a podcast with Annie Carlisle next week with the lead from Liquid Sky. It has nothing to do with World of Wonder. I'm doing a podcast with Annie, so I'm going to talk about that next week.
You're very podcast promiscuous, James.
I'll tell you something. It's funny because I'd done Heclena's podcast a few weeks ago, and I was so funny on it. I was more funny on that podcast than I've ever been on anything World of Wonder related. And I think when you're the subject, when you're in someone else's interview subject, like you're relaxed and you're just, as opposed to like having to have a million things going on in your head and over. Because it's just being on the other end of it is very fun.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Number two. There is a new Vermeer in town. Have you seen the picture? Girl reading a letter at an open window. And it's a beautiful painting.
You sent it to me the other day. It's a fascinating story. And I didn't realize there were so few Vermeers in the world. 34
Vermeers in the world. And it's a picture of a girl at an open, as it says, the title says it all. It says what it is on the tin. It's a picture of a girl reading a letter at an open window. Behind her is a completely blank wall. Or I should say was a completely blank wall until 1979. They x-rayed the painting and found something underneath on that blank wall. And they just spent 2 years scraping off the paint little by little, and they have unveiled on that wall a huge painting
Wow.
of a Cupid right behind her. And so this totally changes the painting because she's reading a letter. Well, what is she reading? Maybe she's reading a love letter, and the letter's crumpled.
Oh.
So maybe it's a sort of a love lost letter, a letter she keeps on reading, looking
Oh,
for
I
signs
didn't
of
catch
hope.
that part. Yeah.
Yes. And there's another detail. The Cupid is sort of standing with his sort of hand on his hips, his hand up, and where his hand is sort of obscured is the edge of this beautiful green curtain. And they cleaned the painting because it was a little dirty and murky. And the green curtain is so beautiful and vivid and rich. And I didn't know this, but apparently what they did in those days is they would, especially during Lent, when you weren't supposed to be having impure thoughts, they would pull a curtain over the pictures in the house, so you weren't getting hard-ons at naked
We're
Cupids.
looking at the Cupid's penises. Yes.
Right. So, but the way the Cupid's hand is on this painting, it looks like the Cupid is pulling back the curtain, revealing the scene.
Revealing something that you can get hard over.
Right? And like saying, oh, looky here, she's in love and I'm Cupid.
And it totally changes the whole focus of the painting. Whereas before you were looking mostly at the girl reading, and now you're taking in the whole image of everything that's going on around her. And it is a spectacular new way to look at the painting. I want to go see it. Have you seen it yet? Are you going to see it?
I've just seen pictures of it. I think it's in Amsterdam, James.
Oh, but I thought it was coming to LA. I thought that was the whole.
Oh, okay. Maybe it is. That'd be great. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it sounds invasive, like tracing your emails the way the government can, which I learned in Monica Black and White, that they can actually find drafts of emails you didn't even send.
Oh, girl, ain't nothing. You think you're throwing shit away. You think you're taking it away for history. History will find it. History will always come back and find it, no matter how many hundreds of years later.
Unless history doesn't care about you. Yeah, oblivion awaits us all. All right, let's have a break. And when we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
Wow.
That is totally not the lesson we were supposed to learn from your story that oblivion awaits us. No.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James and Tom, and we have reached number one.
Number one.
Roe versus Wade was challenged like it's never been challenged before, basically overturned. In Texas, they have a law that says after 6 weeks, it's illegal to have an abortion. And the Supreme Court, a majority of the Supreme Court ruled today that is indeed constitutional. So,
well, it opens the door to a challenge on Roe versus Wade. It hasn't been overturned yet. There is a lot to take in there. There's a lot to chew on. It has been just a very challenging week between the hurricane and between everything in Kabul that's happening, and then this happens. It feels like ding 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 ding, like we're headed for, like, things are getting rough again.
It are the repercussions in Texas, because also there was a voter law that passed that is not positive.
Yeah, and the thing about making it hard for people after week 6 is that a lot of people don't know they're pregnant by week 6, and so there's
a meme going around that's from the Daily Show, an interview with Kathleen Turner and Noah that basically says that any rhetoric around anti-choice is keeping people who live in poverty. It's generational. Yeah. And if they really wanted to make a change, they would invest money and energy into birth control and sex education and on and on. Instead, they just limit access, and so that people, because it's not about not getting rid of abortions, it's about preventing people who don't have money and access to get abortions. Yeah. So it's a dark thing to talk about, but it's a major shift in our world. And
I do think that it's, like I said, it's not something that I know too much about, and I feel like it is something. Thank you for pointing me in the direction that it's something that I need to check up on.
I just always, and I'm raised Catholic, so I think abortion, you can fetishize the fetus and be like, abortion's a horrible thing, and how can you even consider anything? But then you look at how we treat babies that are born and mistreated. And it's like, again, let's prevent abortions. Let's all be into preventing abortions, but doing it through education, birth control, knowledge and help and support, and not, by making.
Well, I don't know that it is up to us to control abortion. I think it's up to the individual, and I think it's
right.
up to, so
choice.
It is
Pro-choice.
Yeah. Everyone, it's their choice. Yeah.
2 places where abortion is illegal: Texas and Afghanistan. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning into the Wow Report on Radio Andy Sirius XM. Listen to previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow. Maybe that something is watching Night Fever on Spotify, coming to Apple.